Hi, Jackie Wicks with PEERtrainer. And my husband and I were just talking about how to access fat instead of access your sugar reserves when you're working out. And a lot of this is from Stu Middleman's book, Slow Burn. But what we were talking about was this. Your ideal image of how you think that you're, or not everybody's, but many times, your ideal image of how you're going to get a rock hard body is an image of people in spinning class, you know, going, sweating, or maybe somebody's sweating when they run a marathon. And obviously that's called an anaerobic activity. And what's interesting, here's what Stu Middleman explains, that you can access energy from two places in your body, from sugar or from fat. We have about 2,500 calories of sugar burning energy. We have about 135,000 calories of fat. Now I just said 2,500 sugar, 135,000 calories to access of energy. And obviously the word calories means energy. 135,000 in fat. And what's interesting is most of the time we are accessing the sugar. Now the sugar calories are there for a very important reason. You must have them. They are your fight or flight energy calories. When you are in an emergency, you need to access those sugar calories. You don't do it from the fat, you do it from the sugar. And so what's interesting is when we do anaerobic workouts, like that workout I just mentioned, where you're spinning and you're pumping, you're accessing this fight or flight because you are dumping so much pressure and so much stress in your body that it feels like it's in emergency mode. And it accesses these 2,500 calories. Now what happens? Have you ever felt like after an intense workout, I must have a Twix bar, or I must have a Gatorade, or I must have a huge bowl of pasta? I know I have before I learned these concepts. And one of the reasons is because you've just used up that little tiny storage of 2,500 calories, and your body must have that. It must replace those sugar calories because you must have them in any emergency situation. So what's interesting is when you're always focused, when you're consistently focused and doing the anaerobic activity, you are consistently accessing that sugar, that sugar resource of energy. Now, how can you switch it to the fat? Because we don't want to keep accessing sugar just to replace the sugar. Obviously, you want to start accessing the fat burning storage calories of 135,000. Well, what Stu says is that once you start to access those resources, you consistently access the fat burning. And if you are consistently accessing the sugar burning, you're going to keep accessing the sugar. So my question was, how do you start to access the fat burning part? And the way that you do that consistently is to not go at the anaerobic pace. You have to slow down. You know, in our culture, we always hear no pain, no gain. This is actually turning that sentence on its head, this philosophy. And you know, you've seen it around, or maybe you haven't paid attention to it. If you've ever been to the gym, you'll see the elliptical trainer, or you'll see the treadmill, and they usually have that graph. Do you remember that graph? Of, hey, if you're in this percentage level, you're fat burning. If you're in this percentage level, you're in cardio. If you're up here, well, you really shouldn't be here. Well, what's funny is so many of us don't stay in that fat burning one. We go straight to the cardio or even higher because sometimes it just feels so good. You're getting your stress out. You're working out. You're in that image. You're going to get that rock hard body. What I would urge you to do, and again, it's in the Slow Burn book, I think it's on pages 124 and 125, is to, again, Stu Middleman, it's to, and I want to credit him because he's really changed my entire philosophy about exercise, and that's why I keep saying, I wish I had followed this 20 years ago. Funny enough, I knew about it 10 years ago, but I didn't even start following it till
And this
recently.
is important because it's different than what the dominant thing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's complete. And you're right, the dominant culture of saying, if I'm going to work out, I better get it going. So you slow it down. You go into that fat burning. And what are some indications that you're in fat burning mode and not in sugar burning mode? In his book, he gives you some really easy clues. And of course, he expands on it. But here's one of the clues. When you're working out, are you able to look around? Are you able to observe your surroundings? Or do you feel like you're more in a tunnel vision of, I just have to get through, go, 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 discipline? When you're in fat burning mode, you're going to be able to have a more easy manner about you. You're able to see your surroundings. You're able to maybe notice the birds, as strange as that sounds. You're able to talk to the person next to you. You're able to really feel your environment versus have this tunnel thing of, I've just got to get it done. Another way that you'll notice is, and everybody knows this, are you huffing and puffing? We've all seen people on the treadmill just burning it out. If you are still able to breathe normally, now when I'm saying this, I don't mean you should always be in fat burning mode. One of the things he says in the book that's extremely important is he says about half of the time you're in this fat burning mode, and then you go about 25% of the time, or even a little bit more, actually 30%, a little bit higher in this, a little bit step up from the cardio, and only 14% of the time, of course I messed up my numbers there because I'm trying to remember them off the top of my head, you're in that anaerobic mode. So what I want you to think about, and so when you're in the fat burning mode, I want you to sit there and say, am I breathing normally, or am I gasping for my last breath? So here's a really good rule that he wrote in his book. About 86% of the time, you're not in that pump it out mode of spinning, running, marathon. Only about 14% of the time are you going to be in that mode when you're working out. And what you start to do is you train your body to access those fat burning calories, that fat burning resource and energy, which you have 135,000 of them, versus this little itty bitty 2,500 sugar burning that you really need to save for emergency. It is not good for your body to always feel like it's in stress, sugar burning, emergency mode. Of course, this is not something I invented. This is not something Stu Middleman invented. This has been a philosophy for a long time, and I'm just introducing this. And one big thing I want to stress here is, if you're having trouble getting the discipline and motivation to work out, and you always feel spent, you always feel stressed, you always sort of feel in quote-unquote emergency mode, I really want you to examine how much of the time are you in fat burning mode and how much of the time are you in sugar burning mode, and to really use some of these tools to access the fat burning resources that you have that are almost endless.
And you trigger this process by, number one, by cutting down on sugar, which is why we say cut down on sugar.
Exactly. The more sugar you intake, the more you're 100% right. And I will also say is that once you start accessing the fat burning calories versus that emergency, you tend to build your stamina. You tend to have a lot more endurance, which is obviously energy and something we're all looking to do. So please email me, jmw@PEERtrainer.com. I'd love to hear some of your experiences. I get emails about this all the time, and I also go through my own process, and I also observe many things in the Peer Trainer community. So I'd love to see some of the individual anecdotal stuff to keep helping give ideas and suggestions of how you can get more into the fat burning mode versus sugar.